otherwise fine.
Oh, I know the cold is just something that is there, right? Even if the sun is out, because the sun was out this morning in Cape Town, and just before I left my house, I was thinking, should I take a jacket or should I not? And then I walked out. I was like, yo, I must take my jacket. I went back in to take my jacket. I think the sun
Yeah.
deceived me there a bit. I was deceived by the sun. I thought, oh, it's sunny. Oh, it's a summery day. No, not quite.
Yes, not at all. Not at
Yeah.
all.
But
Mm.
Alison, it's such a pleasure to be able to have a conversation with you. I know that I've been hunting you down because you're such a busy lady, which I think the hunting down proves that, you're literally very busy with work. And busy
Yes.
impacting communities, making a difference, and ensuring that, lives are being changed. So, welcome to Cape Pulpit. We're so humbled and honored to have you here. Tell us about
Thank you, TC.
tell us about Rainbow of Hope. Give us a bit of a backstory as to how Rainbow of Hope was founded and established. Just the heart behind why Rainbow of Hope is in existence.
Okay, so I don't actually remember, but my siblings tell me I grew up in a very big family, and they tell me that I always said that I was gonna foster and adopt children, although I can't remember. But as young as 16, I grew up on the Cape Flats in Q Town, and there was a place called the Nanny House where the Christine Revel home is now. And I used to run across that Jan Smuts Drive and go and play with the kids there. So I couldn't have been older than 15, 14, 15, because we moved out of Q Town when I was about 16. And that place stuck with me. It was a place for unmarried colored girls who had children. So, there was lots of stigma attached that time. And the thing that stuck with me is that I always said I want to open a place like that, but it's going to be different. I want to look after children, but it's going to be different. What sticks out for me is, and this is the gospel truth, that's why I can tell you this, it's that those kids' curtains in the rooms were never opened. They used to sleep in dark rooms, almost as if I understand now that I'm older, that they never wanted the children to know when it's night and day. And most of the time, those kids were fetal alcohol syndrome children because they were born to mothers who were alcoholics or addicts. It then changed into the Christine Revel home, but I can tell you that stuck with me. I always wanted to have a place where I knew children were going to be treated differently. And so fast forward a couple of years, I was always involved in community work. I belonged to the Baptist church. I was a youth leader. I was a Sunday school teacher. When I had my own children, I stayed at home and looked after them. I never understood where my desire came from to always stand on a soapbox for other children, But when I was, again, fast forward, I was old, I was married, I was pregnant, and a family member told me how she had been abused. And I can tell you, memories came flooding back. And I realized that I'd experienced the same thing. And she said to me, why are you not shocked, And I said to her, because you're telling me my story. And I used to think that I was dreaming. And, that was the first time my memory gave me the ability to remember and then to just deal with, with the abuse, and knowing that there had been abuse, but nothing had been done about it. But TC, if I look back, I grew up in a loving family.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that was okay. But what I'm saying is, I think oftentimes, if I relate my story to children that are here now, oftentimes they are taken away from their families, but they are placed in what I call secondary abuse, because the places aren't capable of looking after them. There's no heart for children. Children are placed into places that is run like reformatories, that it's like it's like they're prisoners because of what has happened in their lives. And so again, I worked in corporate, and I went to work for the Western Province Baptist Association, and I was the PA to the then area manager, and he served on the board here at this place. And one day he came into the office and he said to me, you know, Ali, we're actually going to close down this place. Don't you want to have a look? You've always said that you love children. Now, TC, I want to tell you one other thing is I never ever took a permanent job because I always wanted to be at home in the school holidays, and I always wanted to be with my children. So when my kids were old enough, like 16 and 18, I went back to work. But I never took a permanent job because I always wanted to be in the community, over school holidays, run projects, run stuff like that. That was my life, you know. And eventually I said to him, okay, I'll have a look. And I came to have a look. And, you know, I'm the kind of person, I see a glass half full. And I said to him, okay, I'm going to take it on. And in this house, the house parents had moved out and left the children alone. And I came and I said, this is what I'm going to do. And I came and I still worked for him part-time, and eventually I gave up. And I gave up my job and I came to work here. And that is how I came to be at Rainbow of Hope. So it was an existing children's home. But I also want to say this, and I say this, God knows my heart, it was only for foreign nationals. And I was gobsmacked to think that we have a home for only foreign nationals when we can't look after our own children. At that time, in the social development system, there were over 33,000 children that had needed to be processed. And we were running homes for only children outside of South Africa. And, you know, and I then came in, and obviously I changed everything. And I was branded as xenophobic and everything else. But you know what? I remember there was a pastor that served on our board, and he said to me, Ali, you are only, this is a 7-day wonder because people, they're not brave enough to say what you're saying. And you know, it's true. We changed our home, we changed the whole ethos of the home, and it became a home for all children, foreign nationals as well as South Africans, whether you're black, white or colored, it was immaterial. And that is how Rainbow of Hope was born.
Wow. What a story, you know, like really wholesome, heartfelt story, you know. I love how it has organically, you know, grown and changed through the years, and your involvement through it all. I just believe that God has just been instrumental, you know, in your specific life in terms of, you know, the passion that you've always had for children and wanting to be there, sacrificing, you know, a career, a full-time career, so that you can impact them in the correct way. And I think, you know, the last part that you shared, I think, you know, your heart was for all children, you know, it wasn't even anything that is related to being xenophobic or anything like that or prejudiced. But it's just because you were saying this home should be open for all children because all children, you know, need it. It's not only certain children that need it, and that just shows your heart of justice and fairness. So really good for you for actually standing up and using your voice and amplifying it to make change. So obviously the NGO space, social sort of development space is a tricky space, you know. How is it that you've overcome challenges and, you know, used your voice for the voiceless that you represent?
Okay, so, you know, I just wrote an email in the week to the Tennessee Baptist Children's Home. And while working at the offices of the Baptist Association, I met this guy, and he was working at this Tennessee Baptist Children's Home. It's on the board. And just this week, when I was looking at what our kind of vision is, And one of it was that we would never take government funding. That if I believe that God called me here, then He will provide for us. And I remember reading a book called The Threshing Floor, and I share this with everybody. It's by Juanita Bynum. And she says in the book, she says, if God calls you, He is under obligation to provide for you.
Hey.
Just like your earthly father, if you have a father, biological father, he provides for you, or it is his responsibility to provide for you. And when I read the words, I thought, this woman, am I not being almost arrogant in thinking that God must provide? But my journey at Rainbow House has proven that God will always provide. I have never taken a grant for any children at Rainbow House in the 18 years of existence. I have always, there were times, TC, when we never had. There were times when we used to make a fire, and I used to tell the children stories around the fire, and they used to think that it's all lekker, but it was because we never had money for electricity.
Oh my word.
There were times we never had food. I can tell you, it's our story at Rainbow House is like a George Muller story. There would be a couple. They were Ruth and I can't remember her husband's name. Their surname was Isaacson. And they were a Jewish couple, but they would come up to my door here at Rainbow House, and they would have a carload of vegetables and fruit and stuff in the car, and we would have nothing in our fridge. Today, we supply other people.
Wow.
At this door, when you come into Rainbow House, there's always stuff standing to give away to whoever comes in here, whether you've got or you haven't got. But we touch so many lives. And as I was sharing yesterday also, I thought, how do we share the gospel with children when I started out? But I'm amazed at the footprint we've made all over the world with international volunteers and so on. And God has never been a debtor. He is no man's debtor. I can tell you, we have more than enough. He gives us exactly what we need when we need it. So I don't doubt that I've done the right thing over the years, even though our board has maybe never agreed with me and said, but you must take that grant. I've seen how God is saying, you can do this with me, So yeah, I hope I answered your question, because I can go off on a tangent.
No, you have answered it and just relayed what it means to be called, for a certain time and a season, and the impact that one can do with that calling. I love it so much, especially the part where, if God calls you, He is under obligation to provide for you. That's so powerful. Now, one of our listeners has written to us, Allison, saying, thank you for sharing your inspiring story that is loaded with hope, no matter what the circumstances may be. Man, God is good, Allison, and really He takes His children through it all. It might seem impossible to us as man, but with God, nothing is impossible. I'm sure that you've seen a fair share of those moments where it looked like, what's going to happen? Where are we going to get this from? But God came through for you. It's a story. It's like a story. It's like a miracle that is unfolding. And I'm so grateful that you're here to share that with us. Now, Allison, for those that would love to maybe volunteer and help where they can, how can they do so? What are the needs and maybe the various programs that you have that may need volunteers?
Okay, so on our website is very easy to navigate, and there's an application form that you fill in, and we then have a workshop for prospective volunteers. with a social worker. The reason why we do that is because we've seen over the years how volunteers come. They don't listen when I advise and I say, don't come every day, don't come every week, maybe just come once a month. And once you think, okay, I love what I'm doing, then you increase the hours. So people come every week, come and volunteer, and then they just stay away and they ghost you. And I realized this wasn't good for the children because already the kids had been abandoned by their own families, have been rejected by their own families. Now people come and they do exactly the same. So we are very clear in our workshop. People think volunteering is like, but I'm like, the only time you don't come volunteer if you're committed to this home is when you're dead. And so that is just, we have high expectations for our volunteers, just as our board has high expectations from me and from anybody else who is involved in the lives of the children. We don't, yes, I can't protect them for the rest of their lives, but I can do it now. While they are at a vulnerable stage in their lives, I can protect them from that. And we as people who want to volunteer must know what we're getting ourselves into. So our workshops are very clear. When you walk away here, I can tell you we have about 10 people in a workshop. If one comes back, it's a lot, one or two. And so we're very clear about our expectations. Volunteering isn't for sissies, it's a commitment you make, not to me, not to the board, but to that child that you're going to touch, whose life you're going to touch. So they can go onto the website, fill in the form, send it to me, and I'll give them details of when the next workshop is going to be held.
Excellent. Thank you, Alison, for that. Now, what is the future hope what does the future look like for Rainbow of Hope? What are some of the ideas that you'll be implementing? Any projects that you're currently working on, for expansion and growth and so on?
Yeah, so in 2022, we opened a second house, okay? So originally, Rainbow of Hope was a baby home, but the children were never adopted or they were family members, so they stayed. And so we became like foster care. When the first ones finished with high school, that stayed on. And didn't, I remember the older girl, there was 2 families who wanted to adopt her and she didn't want to go. And she's now studying to be a teacher.
Wow.
And she lives at what we call assisted independent living. So they finished with school, they work part-time, and they study part-time. So there's 2 of them there at the moment. The third one is going to follow soon. She finished matric last year. And then they all studying or they work. But my vision, or I believe the vision God gave me, was always to have 3 homes. A baby home where children stay until they're 6. And then they go into year at Rainbow House where they get their education or their schooling career time. And when they finish their matric and they want to study or go and work, we give them a place at assisted independent living to get on their feet. Because, even if they don't go to university, I tell them straight, this university is not for everybody. So they get the opportunity to live there, to find their feet. And so we are now missing a baby house. So I've made application for a house down the road to the city of Cape Town. I hope they're listening. And I've made application and they've told me that I meet the criteria and that at one stage it was with social development, so obviously they had to give me a recommendation or testimonial. Then they told me that I've met the criteria, but I have to go on a waiting list. So it's a house of theirs that's standing empty. But there's always so much red tape, involved with that. So that house would then become a baby house. Or alternatively, we're looking for a place to rent. So we'll have the baby house. If they don't get fostered or adopted in that first 6 years, they come into Rainbow of Hope, which is their schooling time. And when they finish matric or whatever, they can go and live at assisted independing for a period of time till they get on their feet and then go on to live their own lives. And I think it's brilliant. There's always a flow of children. I cannot change the world, TC, even though in the beginning I thought, I could change the world. I can't. I have to have a starfish mentality. It's changing one life of one child at a time. So that's the vision.
But I mean, from what you're relaying now and how far you've come with the kids to the point of them even becoming adults and working, studying and working, that in itself says, it just shows the amount of impact and of focus that you have in each individual child in shaping them so that they become, better in society, if they become better people. So for me, I'm just wowed by everything that you're saying. So wholesome, like a full story of impact. Now, how do we get a hold of you? What are your social media handles for those that want to be involved in one way or another, whether they want to collaborate, whether they want to assist where they can, you've already mentioned the needs. So if you could please just mention your contact details.
Okay, the cell number for Rainbow of Hope is 082 2020-720. I won't take phone calls during the day, but I will take WhatsApp messages.
Excellent.
And then our landline is 021 591 6600. I think so. 10.
But I think they'll get it on the website.
6610. Sorry, 6610. And then our email address is info@rainbowofhope.co.za. Our website is www.rainbowofhope.co.za. And then we have an Instagram account, which is rainbow_11.
Excellent. Rainbow_11, that is on Instagram. Yes. And you've mentioned all the others. Thank you so much for this authentic story that you have relayed this morning, of really just following your heart and understanding what it is that God has created you to do in this earth, and the amount of impact that brings, is just unthought of. So congratulations. You can pat yourself on the back. And yes, we bring glory to God, but also you have also sacrificed, for where you are and the children that you look after. So may God continue to bless Rainbow of Hope. May God extend your territory. May you reach greater heights and lengths, and everything that you have relayed now that you need, may God provide for you supernaturally. May you never lack anything in the mighty name of Jesus. Thank you so much, Alison, for this conversation. We look forward to following the story and seeing other achievements, new houses being bought, being donated, so on and so forth. We want to see those stories of young people making it in this world, thriving and achieving all their dreams through Rainbow of Hope. May you be blessed. And blessed again. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Alison.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. We look forward to following the story and also hearing more from you. As time goes by, would love to have you again here. Maybe you can actually come to the studio this time. We'll hold you to that. You need to come and visit our studios and have a cup of coffee with us. And we can just have a conversation. We appreciate you and we love you. Thank you so much, my sister.
Thank Thank you. Thank you, TC.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. Right, family of Cape Pulpit, there you have it. Work of impact. It is possible for one person to be passionate, so passionate about children to the point of even sacrificing a full-time career, saying, I won't be able to be fully in a job, but I need to be with my children. I need to be with the children of my community, impacting them daily. I need to be there. Man, what we can all do. I think this world will definitely be a different place if we all just really follow that thing that God has placed in our hearts, that heart for you to serve your community. Find that thing. What is it, Lord? How do you want me to serve your people so that a difference can be made? And if we can all do that, man, would the world be a different place. Right, fam, we're going to go straight to a song. Brandon Lake saying, I need